to the program. Aminu Murtala Nyako is the Chief Executive Officer and the Managing Director of Sebore International Farms, one of the leading players in the dairy sector of the country. Welcome to you, Aminu, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's nice to have me.
Now, let's get started. Let's start from the Agricultural Ministry now. You now have a minister, Abubakar Akiari. How do you think that we should approach agriculture moving forward? Because it seems the way we approach agriculture in Nigeria is let's just feed ourselves, and feeding ourselves in a subsistence manner, even though that we are self-sufficient or we are largest producers of many foods, yet we don't export those foods. So what do you think should be how we should, look at this sector moving forward since we have a new minister, and even for your sector?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I think really and truly Nigeria has been blessed. And I think it's because we've been blessed with abundance that we've not found a way to fully harness what we have. What I mean by that is Nigeria probably has 6 out of the 8 different climatic zones. We have the mangrove region, rainforest, Sahel, desert. And as such, almost every kind of crop you can produce in the world can actually be produced in Nigeria. And as such, what has now been happening is that we produce almost everything, but we've not specialized in one thing. And for you to actually export, you must be able to find an aggregation of excess. And that excess is what allows you to export with standards. Nigeria over the past decade, because like I said, we've been blessed with so much, we do a lot of everything and not enough of everything. Right now, I think with the incoming administration and the population boom that has happened in Nigeria over the past couple of decades, I think it has become imperative that the Ministry of Agriculture, farmers in Nigeria start to specialize to be able to get the kinds of gains that would hit the agricultural sector. Agriculture, in large part, has very different effects on it. We already know what's happening globally with food prices. The food inflation happening in Nigeria right now is not unique to Nigeria. We know what's happening with Russia and Ukraine in terms of grains export. We know what's happening in terms of rice banning in India. And as such, those shocks that are happening outside the country are affecting Nigerians internally. We, I think, have to be very mindful of our approach moving forward, because with Nigeria's population, with over 100 million Nigerians around the age of 18, and most of them even seeping into poverty, the most destabilizing force will become inflation, because most Nigerians spend on food. Health, and education for their children. This is going to be a very big issue, and I think if there's anyone that we know has the vision to be able to proffer a solution for us moving forward is President Ahmed Tinubu, and I'm hoping that the Ministry of Agriculture and other allied ministries can start to reconfigure our budgets to speak to fixing the infrastructural deficit that is actually hampering agriculture from hitting its strides. I mean,
you're a young man in agriculture, and we have aging farmers. We have aged people in that sector. Like I mentioned earlier, it seems we're just farming, producing to just feed ourselves, yet it's not enough. What will it take to bring young people into farming? And I'm not talking about even people now that are having poultry, catfish pond near their house. Those are hustlers. Everybody's looking for how to survive. I'm talking about getting young people into agriculture, getting young people into farming, that we can feed ourselves and definitely export. What will it take to bring people like you, men and women like you, into farming? What should the government do deliberately to be able to enable that?
So, to be honest with you, I'm going to speak from my personal experience in agriculture now for over the last 3 years. I'm an economist. I'm really not a farmer, really. So,
but that's what you do, like, on a daily basis.
Exactly.
You're the idea of a farm.
Yes. So I look at agriculture as market failure that has happened over the last decade. And what market failure in economics tells you is there's opportunity, there's value, and there's wealth that can be created. But there are things that are not allowing it to actually flourish the way it should flourish. What we've done in the dairy sector, which was existent but not really working the way it should until we kind of started looking at it intrinsically in the Northeast, is that, you see, the most perishable good in Nigeria, most people think is tomato because that's what is there. But really and truly, the most perishable product, agricultural product in Nigeria is milk.
Milk?
Milk. Milk has to be cooled to 4 degrees within the first 2 hours of milking. Tomato can at least stay in room temperature for 4 hours. So for you to cool milk, you need rural roads to bring it out. You need electricity to cool the milk. You need infrastructure, cooling centers. You need trucks. You need a processing center. These are things that has plagued agricultural sector for quite a number of time. It will interest you to know that I think as at last year, Nigeria did about $2 billion worth of milk imports. That milk product import. Our cheese is imported, ghee is imported, fresh milk, long life milk, yogurts, powdered milk. And we're a nation that has a young population that requires protein, and the cheapest protein is milk. So if we're
the cheapest protein is milk?
The cheapest
not
protein
egg?
you can.
Oh, even
No,
egg
egg.
Is even
You should know the price of egg.
Egg now.
It should tell you that
what
milk.
Even the price of milk, Aminu is.
Because we're dependent on powdered milk in the country. And you can't have that kind of dependency and also have the kind of cattle population that Nigeria has. In northern Nigeria, I think we're sitting on about 28 million cattle that can produce milk, but are not producing milk because infrastructure is not in place to be able to capitalize on milk.
So you mean infrastructure like ranches, and we shouldn't see our cows roaming the streets of
to be honest with you, what we've done in the Northeast in the last 2.5 years is that we've integrated about 18,000 farmers right now, young farmers, into this, people that already have an existing cattle base that already know it. And we've been spending resources trying to retrain them to understand the value of milk. We've also deployed collection centers that are powered by renewable energy, solar. That way we can have decentralized energy systems that can provide the cooling that we require. I think, and that has created an intranet of farmers that are now keyed into the official formal value chain of milk that are producing milk for us on a daily basis. Our next step now is to train these farmers on productivity increase. The cattle in Nigeria are probably the most unproductive milk producers in Nigeria because nobody has ever focused on milk. You will hear stories of things happening in Taraba, in the Mambila Plateau, where they pour out the milk because there's nobody to actually offtake it to process it. And if you're going to depend on fossil fuels, diesel, gas, to be able to do, you already know what gas is doing and diesel prices are moving in thing. You cannot use that kind of energy infrastructure to move it. Nigeria is blessed. So in our program right now, we don't work with fossil fuels. We're all completely renewable. We're working on best battery energy storage systems and solar systems, and that has allowed for us to create a decentralized collection framework. I think this kind of innovation is, at this moment, extremely critical for the agricultural sector because what we're doing in dairy can literally be done in shea butter, it can be done in sesame, it can be done in groundnut, it can be done in cassava, it can be done in all the other value chains that Nigeria already has advantage over, but has not been able to fully harness those kinds of possibilities to be able to give us value properly. I think it's of critical importance right now that the status quo does not continue, because the honest truth is most farmers, I look at agriculture really and truly as an opportunity for shared prosperity. Most Nigerians, 80% of Nigerians as at last count, are into agriculture in some way, shape or form. What I mean by that is it's either, like you're saying, the hustlers are doing small eggs, small chicken. Some people do maize in their house. Some people do potatoes. We already have that background to be able to officially go into agriculture. But we need now to focus on a way to share our prosperity. For us right now within the Sebore model, we don't envisage our farmers going to start thinking of how to find renewable energy solutions for their energy. We've also guaranteed their offtake from whatever they produce from the cows. We'll buy it from them. We've introduced mobile wallets. Why? There are no banks. You know, when the previous administration did the cashless policy, in Adamawa State, you probably have banking infrastructure in 3 local governments. You have in Yola, you would have in Mubia, you probably have in Numan Axis. No other place has banks. So if you do not look at other innovative solutions that are more reflective of the youth and what they understand. They understand mobile wallets. They understand e-money. They understand mobile transfers. So the entire 18,000 farmers don't work with banks. They work with mobile money.
And that's an opportunity there for the digital economy.
It is a massive opportunity.
Banks mustn't be in every location.
Look, the infrastructure.
But everybody has a phone, even if it's, like they say, palasa. Do you understand?
Exactly.
And
you do not need a smartphone. You only need a mobile phone. And if you start to look, we already know the kind of economic situation Nigeria is in. So it will be quite difficult for you to lean on either loans to get you there, or you want to come and do something grand. You must first look within at what are the opportunities that Nigerians can quickly leverage to be able to achieve value very quickly. We have cattle, we have maize, we have sesame, soya, shea, baobab, cassava. All these things are things that our people are already producing. Finding a way to increase the productivity and value add within the these value chains is what will give us the kind of gains that we're looking at in the agricultural sector.
You said we have 28 million cows. Did I hear you right? Is that enough?
To be honest with you, I think it's more than enough. I think
But
in terms of cattle population, I think we have one of the highest cattle populations in Africa, maybe even the world. But the problem is, in Nigeria, a cattle will give you maybe half a liter to 1.5 liters per cow. To be honest with you, in Kenya, they're doing 18 liters. In Turkey, when I went, they're doing 30 liters. In Europe, they do 40 liters per cow. In the US, it's 60 liters per cow. So if you can get even half of our population doing 10 liters, the kind of exponential milk you will get from the country
and the byproducts, because it's a value chain too.
You know, funny enough, in Sebore, we call our milk factory a milk refining system. The reason I'm saying is that most people think of oil and think of all the derivatives that come from oil, bitumen, PMS, AGO, and the rest. In milk, you probably can get 13 derivatives. You get the long life milk, you get condensed milk, you get ghee, you get yogurt, you get ice cream, you get cream cheese, you get cheese, all the different types of cheese. To be honest with you, and all of these things are things that the Nigerian palate consider, appreciate, and import. Well, we have a base that can give you that. What I'm hoping is that, and I'm saying this with all sincerity, I think what President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu did in Lagos, when he had paucity and was able to convert it into prosperity, I believe that he is a leader at this moment that I believe may be able to crack the yoke of our stagnation in terms of our Greek economy. I think really and truly, we cannot depend on imports right now to feed our country. We've not had a cap on our population growth and our birth rate. So for every moment we sit and delay in terms of having a food security plan or a Marshall Plan for agriculture, to be able to look at these value chains that can not only feed us, but give us import credits, we will only be digging ourselves deeper. If our population was stagnant, then you know the fixed amount of people you have to feed. But it's growing. And as it's growing, we're not cultivating more land, and we're not increasing the productivity of the people that are already cultivating land. These are the things that I believe that the Ministry of Agriculture and other related ministries must look at critically. We must find a way of increasing productivity of our farmers. And to be honest with you, I will say this. We have worked now in the Northeast, where people think it's a poverty-ridden, war-torn area. 18,000 farmers for the last 2 years have given my company milk on a daily basis unfailingly. For you to do that, you need to have shown some traits that can show success. It shows that Nigerian farmers are resilient. Through COVID, they gave us milk. Through inflation, they are giving us milk. It shows you they're hardworking, they are dedicated, and really and truly, if you give them the adequate environment and the opportunity for them to go into that value chain, they will do it, and they will do it with a kind of fervor that will allow for the industry to stabilize itself for future gains. I am by no means saying that it's going to be easy because we know what the balance sheet of the federal government looks like. But I am hoping that there's going to be an injection of youth thinking, energies, and optimism. I say optimism because what you don't know would hurt you allows you to have a form of bravado to enter the system properly. If I was not a young man, I would have been daunted by people telling me that you can't go into milk because you don't have the power to be able to cool milk at 4 degrees. But I didn't look at that as a challenge. We decided to sit down and build a system that is powered by renewable energy. And that renewable energy system has not failed us till today. So our cost of processing milk, storing milk, and transporting milk has dropped significantly. With when we started this whole thing, our cost of petrol and diesel was $250 when I invested in renewable energy. I think right now Sebore Farms has 5 megawatts of power built on the farm. And Adamawa State gets 7 megawatts of power. It tells you that even within the power sector, things can be done vastly different that can allow us to have maximum gains. So from all
what you're telling me right now, I can deduce a lot of things. You know, resilience, and you've just got to do the work, as well as don't even look at the challenge, just go into it. And I mean, just tell me, is there money in agriculture?
To be honest with you, I think there is money in agriculture if you get the fundamentals right. The honest truth is, agriculture, you have to de-risk at different stages. What we've promised our farmers in the dairy sector, and I'm using the dairy sector because first and foremost, it is one of the sectors that can give you daily income. What I mean by daily income is that if you cultivate maize, you wait 4 months. If you cultivate ginger, you wait 10 months. Right? But if you do milk, you get milk daily.
No, but your cow has to get to a certain level before you start milking.
Yes, it gets a bit from birth to 24 months. By year 2, you start getting milk, and you can get milk for the next 5 years if you have the proper animal husbandry practices. I'm telling you that there's money to be made in agriculture, because in dairy, like I would say, our farmers right now, if you get 5 liters on a cow, take for example, and you have 5 cows, you'll be making roughly 160,000 naira a month.
160,000
naira a month.
That's almost a day.
A month.
Okay.
160,000. That's 5 times minimum wage right now.
Okay.
It tells you that if you're able to invest in a sector where it has been able to be de-risked across the value chain. What do I mean by de-risking here? We tell our farmers, whatever amount of milk you produce, we would buy. That gives them the energy to invest in feeding the cow, making sure the cow is healthy, making sure that they are milking every morning.
Now, for Aminu, what you've said now, you are de-risking for the people that work with you. What can the government do right now in terms of de-risking these different chains in the value chain, or these different components in the value chain for different products? Because like we said, even earlier, tomato, we produce it, we waste, yet we import tomato puree and all of that. We import a lot of things. Nigeria is the biggest producer of cassava, perhaps yam, and all of that. How do we now begin to de-risk? That's one. Then, as we also close, I would like you to add, with the state of emergency that Mr. President has, announced on food security, do you think that's a way to go? And what can you advise this government? Now there's a minister in place in terms of the food security architecture.
So I will tell you, I'll start from the last part. I think declaring a state of emergency on food security is important because it serves, one, as a signal that the administration is interested in tackling food security. Secondly, administratively, it helps you cut the bureaucracy required for you to implement projects at a large enough scale.
Okay.
The federal government already has different projects within the food security space. LPS, they have special agri-processing zone, SAPZs. They have the appeals projects that have already been funded. Adjusting those frameworks to be able to give you efficiency is important. But as a last broad stroke, you need to understand, to de-risk in agriculture, the 2 main things that give farmers the biggest headache is energy, inputs, and accessibility to market. You see, within our program, energy has been tackled through solar renewable energy. Access to market, you have big aggregators that are able to take their product off from them, which gives them the confidence to produce. And then lastly, inputs. We already know that what fertilizers are saying. Fertilizer prices have increased dramatically.
But Mr. President said they will release some metric tons of fertilizers
Yes,
to farmers.
you have to do that. But the thing is, like I said, if you do not handle them in a form of Marshall Plan for the sector that has a clear enough vision and procedures as to how people, existing players, take advantage and new players come in, you will find out that there will be a paucity, lack, and then inflation will then eat up the rest.
How about the area of NISAL? Because we're talking of de-risking. NISAL was established at a time.
Yes.
You should know NISAL.
Yes, I do know NISAL.
Now, do you think that it has really fulfilled its establishment, the essence of its establishment?
I think NISAL has done what it can do based on the existing framework that it was working with. And that's why at the beginning of my statement I said there has to be a change in terms of the approach. If you're right now, NISAL de-risk individual farmers. So you need an asset. You need infrastructure that you can bring in. How many Nigerians can boast of infrastructure that you can use to guarantee loans? That is difficult already for the average farmer. So what you want to do is create larger aggregators that you can de-risk, that will give you the opportunity to be able to access export markets as well as serve domestic markets. Once you de-risk them, they then onwardly de-risk the subsistence farmers. I think that's the approach to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Aminu.
Thank you so much
for coming and your insights
this
morning. Just continue to attract young people to your sector, and it's so sad, but we move.
I don't think it's sad. I think the opportunity is now. I think the opportunity is now. All other sectors are also reeling, and the easiest way for you to be able to create income, really and truly, and also have dignity in labor, is to go into an agri sector that has been adjusted for.
Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Aminu, for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, I've been speaking with Aminu Murtala Nyako, who is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Sebore International Farms. We've been focusing on food in Nigeria. That's how much we can take today on the program. Thank you all for joining us today and this week. I am Nancy Nigeria. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I'll see you all again next week. Bye now.